So today we are talking about shoyu ramen, and today, last class we did like miso ramen, and then it's you know, sh- uh, we also have to talk about like what the shoyu is, and that's the soy sauce, and what is shoyu ramen, and we also like talk about like what kinds of noodles are suitable for shoyu ramen, and ingredients, noodle making processes, and making shoyu ramen. Like so, Megami is gonna make shoyu ramen noodles on ramen machine, and Mr. Takeuchi, like one of our instructors for school, is gonna or teach us some shoyu ramen, and he's gonna do like few sample dishes like shoyu ramen, followed by FAQ session. Um, Before getting into the class, I just want to just talk a little bit about ramen. So ramen has been like growing rapidly like across the world, and then like a lot of people say that like ramen is like new sushi, and like even though it has like only a history of like 100 years, it's been evolving and evolving, and it's highly customizable. Like it's got like noodle and soups, toppings, and each of the components are highly customizable. And ramen has like something that drives people crazy. So it's like that's why like it's been like rapidly growing like in different parts of the world. And so like ramen is like for those of you like who are kind of thinking about doing something, ramen may have like pretty big potential for your business. Okay, so talking about shoyu, which is soy sauce. So shoyu is type of tasty seasoning called like hishio that's made by fermenting fruits with salt and malt. As shoyu is made by fermenting grains such as like soybeans, it is called grain hishio. There's other types like fish hishio made by fermenting fish. So this hishio itself was being made and used as old as over 2,000 years and 1,300 years ago. When did this hishio become shoyu? So the most widely accepted theory goes back to like 800 years ago when a monk went to China to learn how to make miso. Manufacturing process of miso, there's a byproduct that's liquid. First they throw it away, but like found it to be like very good when used as a seasoning. Then they started making miso with more liquid and using the liquid as seasoning. So this liquid is a type of soy sauce called like tamari shoyu. So which is the original and first shoyu and less liquid than a regular shoyu. Tamari has the protein of soybeans concentrated, so the taste is very thick with umami and high in flavor. Tamari shoyu was getting used widely, and about 400 years ago, a standard shoyu that's called like Koikuchi and Usukuchi were developed using roasted wheat instead of barley. So there are mainly like five major types of shoyu. One of them is like Koikuchi. This is probably the most popular type. It's coupled with bonito dashi and works well with fish. Basically, it reduces the fishy smell. And the usukuchi, like it's less darker in color, but with like higher in salinity level. Works well with like kombu dashi, and it's usually used in cooking. Tamari, we talked about tamari, like that's the original one. That's due to like higher concentration of soybeans. It's packed with umami, and the color is the darkest among the five types. Type like Shichikomi, like when like they're making like soy sauce, they add like salt water to soy sauce instead of like they add another batch of like shoyu soy sauce, which hasn't been treated with heat. So it requires twice as much of ingredients and labor, and it's very costly, but it has like a really strong umami flavor. Shiro, which means like white in Japanese, it's made with wheat and soybeans at a 9-to-1 ratios. Like so it's mostly wheat. But as soybeans add dark color, by adding more wheat, it maintains white color, like white, more like kind of yellow, like kind of clear yellow color, with a higher like salinity level, and it is salty. Other than like different types of shoyu, there are many regional shoyu manufactured in Japan. And ramen shops are serving shoyu ramen and do their like research and development and have their preferences and blending ratios of different shoyu to bring out the taste and flavors they want in the bowls of their shoyu ramen. So what's ramen soup, right? Before we start talking about shoyu ramen, like what's ramen soup? Like ramen soup consists of like base stock, base broth. That's like basically animal types like pork, chicken. So this is the foundation of ramen soup. And then on motodare, that's the concentrated like sauce that's basically like three types like miso, shoyu, and shio. And then oil adds like flavor. I mean the aroma to the ramen soup, and then that's made out of like vegetables. That like for example like garlic, seaweed, and other types. So like this stock like kind of serves as the foundation of the ramen soup. Like so you have to make it like really good for your ramen soup to be like at like high quality. And tare basically determines the taste of your ramen soup. So like either like using different types of miso, shoyu, shio, so making it sort of like kind of complex taste. And then oil adds flavored oil like adds the aroma to the your soup. So like basically ramen soup like consists of three components: base stock, tare, and then oil. So having said that, so shoyu ramen is a noodle soup that's made by adding shoyu motodare to the broth. And the first ever shoyu ramen is said to be Tokyo ramen served by Rai Ken in Usakusa, Tokyo in 1910. Shoyu ramen has the longest history along with the shio ramen. So when people say ramen, like they may refer to like just shoyu ramen. And typically the broth is made from like chicken bones and other ingredients. But other is use pork bones, beef bones, or variety of vegetables and seafoods. The shoyu ramen soup uses shoyu tare to season broth with like shoyu or towards like shoyu taste and flavor. Shoyu ramen means maybe like the ramen, or sometimes like they refer to as chuka soba. Like chuka means Chinese or like Chinese cuisine, and soba means like this like general. I mean noodles in general in Japanese. It's not like buckwheat noodles. It's not the soba noodles, but like soba means like just noodles in general. But like so like when people say like chuka soba, like they may be referring to shoyu type of shoyu ramen. There are many different regional shoyu ramen in different parts of Japan, and more ramen shops have been like developing, polishing new styles and categories of shoyu ramen. Traditionally, shoyu ramen tends to be lighter in taste with the lighter broth, but there are some exceptions like tonkotsu shoyu ramen made with like heavy pork bone stock. Okay, so talking about noodles that are suitable for shoyu ramen. So we've been using this chart to describe different types of ramen noodles, and this way the horizontal line represents the like moisture content of the noodles, like so how much liquid is contained in the noodles. Vertical line represented protein content of the flour that's used to make these noodles. And on the right hand side, it says like noodle size vertically, like from the top 1.0 millimeter to like down to like 5.0 millimeter. This is size of the cutters that are used to cut these noodles. And if you look at the Hakata ramen, that's like small green circle that's on the top left corner. That's low in the moisture content, like high in protein content. So this is hard noodles. Like this, like less moisture, less water, less liquid, the harder the noodle texture. Higher the protein, the harder the noodle texture. For the size, that's 1.1 millimeter and then 1.3 millimeter. So that's thin noodle. So this is thin and hard noodle. But if you look at the big yellow circle, where it says like tsukemen, like dipping noodles. That's high in water content, and but like low in protein content of flour. And but like if you see the size, that's 1.5 millimeter to like maybe 3.0 millimeter. So that's like a thick noodle. So this is thick and soft noodles. And so and like you can have like noodles that are like thin and soft noodles, but like that's not a good combination for noodle texture because it's it's we don't give you like good bite to it. You could have like noodles that are like thick and hard noodles, and that wouldn't be a good either because that's just hard to eat. For shoyu ramen, or like chuka soba, that the texture, noodle texture should be like kind of fall somewhere between like the ramen noodles and tsukemen noodles. So that's kind of in the middle. That's not too hard, that's not too soft, and then that's not too thick. Okay, so let's start talking about like ingredients that are used for shoyu ramen noodles. First ingredients, so like that's wheat flour, and wheat flour we all talked about the protein content of flour. So that's in like kind of middle in terms of textures. Like we talk about like higher the protein, the harder the noodle texture, but like in the kind of medium hard. So the protein content like kind of tends to be like around 11%. Ash content of the wheat flour. So ash is like how much minerals they contain in the flour, and the higher the ash, basically darker the color, but like stronger the flavor of the wheat. And uh, so it really depends on like if you care about the color of the noodles and less ash than like less color, but like it's up to the preference of the ramen shop that are making ramen noodles. But so that's ash and viscosity. Viscosity is a value that measures how elastic the noodles become, and this value is not like shown on the product label, but you have to like measure it on a device called a Rebender machine, which we have at our headquarters. So that basically measures the how elastic the noodles can be. So basically, the higher the viscosity, the better the noodle texture, more elastic, like more flexible. And but like if it's not shown on the product label, so like if you have like some flour that you may wanna use, then you can send it to us, and we can test it for you. It's a free of charge. So when thinking, looking for a good flour for shoyu ramen noodles, like um, what you should consider as a protein, ash, and viscosity. Um, Talking water, so water is also important ingredient for ramen noodles. Kind of water we want to use is soft water. So soft water, as opposed to like hard water contains a lot of minerals. Minerals like magnesium, like calcium, and when we this image, like we cooking noodles, and when cooking noodles and all these like calcium, salt, and other ingredients are need to be like released to cooking water. But like when cooking the noodles like in hard water, because there are a lot of like minerals contained in water, so there's less room for these ingredients to be released to. Um, then if you think about like kind of cooking the stock, cooking them like moves up like pork bones, like all these like essence like from pork bones they need to be released to the cooking water to like make. But if you have like a lot of minerals already in hot water, then it takes long time to cook it to get the same amount of stock. So that's why we use soft water when cooking noodles or like cooking the broth. If you cook the hot water, if you cook the noodles in hot water, like then you have to cook them for a long time. Then the surface melt, and like because the noodle itself like dissolved in the cooking water, so we would have like less water, like we will lose a lot of like noodles in cooking. So that's nothing good about like using hot water and like cooking noodles and like stock. So if you have to work with like hot water, like then we recommend that you use softening machine, water softening machine. And then water, so hydration ratio, we talked about moisture content. So the higher the water, softer the noodle texture. Then less water, the harder the noodle texture. And we we talked about so like for shoyu ramen noodles, typically that's medium water content noodle, like which means that like the water ratio is 31% to like maybe like up to 39%, 40%. 31% means that like for 5 kilograms of flour, we're adding like 1.5 kilograms of water. So that's what the 30% means. Okay, so the hydration ratio is also like that. That determines the noodle texture as well. The kansi is something that you have to have in your noodles we call ramen, and there are many types like kansi that are out there. But like for noodles to be expected to be consumed in like a week or so, the types of kansi we basically use a combination of potassium carbonate and sodium carbonate. Potassium carbonate hardens the noodle texture, changes the noodle color to like kind of yellow, and has a stronger kansi smell. Sodium carbonate has exactly opposite characteristics. And if you remember the chart, so thinner noodle, you want to make it harder. So we add like more potassium carbonate. So thicker noodles, like we want to make it softer. So we want to increase the amount of sodium carbonate. So that's, yes, so we blend the potassium carbonate and sodium carbonate at different ratios to have like different texture as well. Okay, talking about the production processes of shoyu ramen noodles. So this slide just talks about the kind of describes like how we make the dough, and the most important process in this slide is weighing of ingredients at the right ratios. So at Yamato, we weigh each ingredient by weight, not by volume, because we want to be precise and we want to be like consistent in quality, like every time like we make something, not just only noodles but like soups and other things. So if you make mistakes in this process, then the rest of the process will matter, So you have to weigh the ingredients by grams or like kilograms or like a pound every time. And mixing process, like so we mix the solid ingredients and liquid ingredients for the right mixing speed for this phenomenon to have like agitation granulation phenomenon. So each flour grain like gradually come together to form like crumbles dough as mixed with the liquid. And after that, we put the dough into resting process. So we put the dough in like plastic bag and let it sit for room temperature. And because we want to like develop like good gluten structure to have like very good that noodle texture. So we do the resting process. And as you can see, like on the image, like on the right top corner, that's the web like gluten structure being developed. So mixing and the resting are very important too. So the rest of the process, like on this slide, like I'm going to explain like later, like when Megumi makes the noodles. So after we make dough, like all we have to do is thin it, cut it, and portion it, and then rest it. And then resting process, so we basically make the dough into the noodle strands and then put it in a fridge. And then in the refrigerator, like the noodles lose moisture, gets drier, and then like kind of the noodle, the texture gets tighter, and the color becomes translucent to have better noodle texture. And talking about getting the right noodle texture, so like you have to think about like what kind of noodle texture you want to have like when your customers like bite into your noodles. And so for shoyu ramen, like that's typically curly or straight, relatively thin and firm. And this is the exact the ingredients that we're gonna do for recipe that we're gonna do for the this class. So solid ingredients like flour, you're gonna use like protein content like 11.2%, ash 0.34%, which is pretty low ash content. Liquid ratio like 35%. So inside it's 35%. It's water 33%, constantly 1%, salt 1%. So each percentage like to the weight of the flour. Then the noodle size, the width 1.5 millimeter, thickness 1.3 millimeter. So this is the kind of most like popular like ramen noodle size, actually like 1.5 millimeter, 1.3. And getting right, and then what's also important is that like you have to think about the shape of the noodles. So this is a cut surface noodle, and so like width and thickness. So this is the size that we're gonna do for shoyu ramen noodles, but like so cut like the thickness side is like actually cut surface. Like that's where the noodles are cut. Like so like it has like a very rough surface, and so that's where the like a soup and or like water kind of gets absorbed from. So when you cook this kind of 1.5, 1.3 millimeter like noodle, it becomes like after it's cooked, like it becomes like kind of like square shape, like with like four sides dented. And so like when you eat the noodles, it kind of like catch like holds like soup like on this in these dents. So you're gonna have like kind of well balanced like kind of eating experience of like noodles and like soup. So it holds more soup. And like reverse cut noodles, on the other hand, this is the kind of typical type of noodle like that's using the kind of Aike ramen noodle like we did in the previous class. So the thickness is larger than width, and so it has like a larger cut surface, rough surface, where the soup and the cooking water is like, absorbed from, and so it absorbs like cooking water soup faster, and then becomes like a round oval shape kind of. Not a good uh, texture, but like yeah, that's using like Ieke ramen noodles. So like you have to think about what kind of noodle texture you want your customers to have, like experience when formulating your noodle recipes, like ingredients, and then the shape of your noodles. Before we go into making noodles, like I just like want to talk a little bit about like kind of like benefits of like homemade noodles. So if you're a restaurant, you have like two options like for your noodles and like serving. If you want a restaurant like kind of serving ramen noodles, you have two options like either buying noodles or like making your own noodles. And a typical price of like buying noodles is about like 50 cents in US dollars per serving. But the cost of like typical cost of like making noodles per serving is around like 20 cents in US dollars, including ingredient costs, labor, like utility fees. So you're looking at like 50 to like 60% serving. And in this example, like you're doing like 150 servings a day, and so like total payment, like you're making like the 2,500 a month, and in a year like over you're paying over like 20,000 a year. But if you're making noodles, then the saving would be like $1,750 like a month, and in a year like you're maybe saving like 13,500 dollars. And like if you can sell more than 150 servings a day, then you're looking at like a lot more savings. And you can offer like better noodles than like those made by like big factories at lower prices, and you can respond to a small order and unique requests. you can have like total control of like quality and ingredients used, and then you can provide a sense of like you can provide your customers with like sense of food safety and freshness. You can differentiate your business from others with like noodles and like machine setup. Like this is a concept like we call like a micro noodle factory for your customers. You can adjust like production volume yourself. You know, you can make a variety of ramen noodles, udon, soba, pasta, and Chinese noodles and other types of noodles. Because of the low production costs, you can provide your customers with like more values. Making noodles like shoyu ramen noodles, and let me explain the ingredients. So this is the flour we talked about, right? So this like has a protein content like 11.2% and ash like 0.34%. Like so, this is like very low ash. It's like really low ash content. And this is a solid ingredients and liquid ingredients. So we have water. There's water like 33% of the weight of flour. So that's I can't calculate it on the top of my head, but to the weight of flour. And this is a kansi. So kansi is a 60% potassium carbonate, 40% sodium carbonate, kind of in the middle ratio. So 1% to the weight of the flour. That's salt. That's 1% of the weight of flour. So, and this is 4 kilogram batch. So that's 40 grams, and then yeah, I can. So well, anyway, so we have ramen machine here. It's called like Richmond One machine, and it has 10 kilograms of mixer, and the minimum batch of this mixer is like 4 kilograms. So that's why the batch is like 4 kilograms. And so this is a all-in-one machine, which means that like you can make fresh noodles from scratch just with this machine. And first, we'll mix it just with the flour for 1 minute. And while we do that, Igmi is gonna dissolve this salt and kansi, the water. So even though like these ingredients come in powder form, we have to melt them into water. So that's what we consider them as liquid ingredients. So after 1 minute, we'll need to pour the liquid onto the mixer lid, which has like small holes. Through these holes, the liquid drips through to be added to the flour. We add the liquid like this way because we want to add like liquid like little by little. We don't want to add like liquid all at once because you know we want to have like a very good hydration on the dough. But we can't wait like for the mixer to be done, like you know, so it'd be boring. So like we will start doing the next process. So this is the dough that make me like prepared like before, same recipe. So that's how like first resting is done. So putting the dough like in a plastic bag and letting it sit at room temperature for 30 minutes to an hour. And the first process that we're gonna do is it's called like wrap forming. So wrap forming, like we're making just wrap sheet of dough through the set of rollers that this machine has, and you can easily adjust the roller gap between two rollers with this handle. Now she's setting the roller gap to 1.5 millimeter and start the roller to make a rough sheet of dough. So she's winding it onto a rolling pin, and it just automatically winds by itself. And so we'll just keep feeding the dough to the rollers, and yeah, make a rough sheet of dough. So if you look at if you notice the like size of the dough, that's crumble size of crumbles, because this is like 35% hydration ratio. That's why the size of crumbles is this big. But if you're doing for example, like the lower hydration ratio noodle, like Hakata ramen noodles, which is like usually it's like goes with like very thick, rich tonkotsu, like pork bone broth. Maybe you're looking at like hydration ratio like 28%, like 30%. Then the size of crumble is like a lot smaller. It's almost like powder form, and then like in that case, like we need to set the roller gap to maybe like smaller, 1.1 millimeter or something. But like if you're doing a higher hydration ratio noodle like tsukemen noodles, then your like crumbles will be like a lot bigger. So you need to like widen the roller gap, maybe like to 2 millimeter. So depending on the hydration ratio of the noodle you're doing, you need to adjust the elements of like in noodle making processes. So it's been 4 minutes, and then we'll add the like rest of the water, and then like run it for another 6 minutes. So the total mixing time is 10 minutes for this dough. And so basically we talked about like different hydration ratio dough, and so low hydration dough, that's less than like 30%. So the mixing time is 15 minutes. But like high hydration ratio noodle, the mixing time is like just 5 minutes. So the less water, the longer you have to mix. And what she's now doing is that like she's separating the dough into like 2 sheets of dough, and then combine them through a roller, because the dough sheet now is like still like it's very fragile. So you want to make it firm, by like combining them together. And that was like 1.5 millimeter in thickness previously, and we were combining two separate sheets into one, right? So that's like 1.5 plus 1.5, like 3 millimeter equivalent of dough is like going to the roller, right? But we don't want to thin it drastically. So we want to like reduce the thickness of the dough. You want to apply like good amount of pressure at the time, not too much, because like that if you apply like too much pressure at once, then that would destroy the gluten structure. So we apply this rule of 70% rule, 50% reduction rule. So at each round of thinning, we reduce the thickness by 70%. So that's 3 millimeter dough, like equivalent dough is like going to the roller. So 3 times 0.7, 2.1, to make it simple, 2.0 millimeter. So that's why we set the roller gap to 2 millimeter. So this compounding process is very important to have this very good noodle texture. If you skip this process, then the noodle texture be like really it's not gonna be like really firm, that as firm as like you want for your ramen noodles to be. I mean your shoyu ramen noodles to be. And we usually do this process like 1 to 2 times, depending on the type of like ramen noodles that we're making. And for this type of noodle, like we do it twice. And again, like compounding process, separating in 2 sheets and combining through the roller, right? Then so that was like 2 millimeter. Then 2 millimeter in thickness, like each is 2 millimeters, so 2 plus 2, 4 times 0.7, 2.8. Like we want to round it up for the sake of simplicity to 3 millimeter. And from this point on, we want to start dusting it from this automatic duster, because you don't want the dough to stick together. So like to keep it from sticking, we start dusting from this point on. So after combining process, so that in terms of like gluten structure inside dough, that's complete. So all we have to do is just thin it to the final thickness, and the thickness was 3 millimeter, and applying this 70% reduction rule, 3 times 7.7, 2.1, round it down to 2.0 millimeter. So we are thinning it out 2 millimeter. And from this point on, we can actually go faster. We are going slower because we wanted to put really good pressure on the dough. Like from this point on, we can go faster because the gluten structure has been complete inside dough. And so that was 2, and then Next round, like we set the roller gap like 1.5 millimeter, so 2 times 0.7, like 1.4, but like you wanna make it simple, right? Running it up to 1.5 millimeter. So even though we set the roller gap and dough sheet goes through the roller gap, the actual thickness of dough is always bigger because right after like it's going through the roller gap, it bounces back, like it expands back. So next round, like we're gonna cut it, but like we want to measure the actual thickness to see what the actual thickness is, like 2.0-ish, 2.0. And so, but like the roller gap was a 1.5, so there's a difference of like 0.5 millimeter. So after it's gone through the roller gap like 1.5, it's bounced back by 0.5, and the thickness, the final thickness we want that to be is 1.3 millimeter, 1.3 millimeter. So we use this kind of cutter that's like paper shredder. So the dough sheet like goes through between the sliter, and then it gets slitted out into like noodle strands. And we want to make a curly noodle, and then we use this kind of like parts that's like silicone plates, like, and they're gonna block the noodles from coming out, and then like noodles that get stuck in there. But like another batch of like another portion of noodle like goes in, and like the previous batch like portion like gets pushed out, and in the process the noodles get curly, wavy. So set the cutter and we'll cut it. So noodles are coming out and they're curled like that. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna make the other half straight and different size, a bit different size. So that's how you make like curly noodles. And I'm gonna make the other half like into straight noodles with the and you can change the length. You can change the length of the noodle by the volume. So you can make it longer to have bigger portion. You can have like make it shorter to have smaller portion. The touch of knob. It's very easy. Like you can adjust your serving size. It's very easy. So this was just 4 kilograms batch, and then depending on your serving size, the how many portions you can make out of the batch would be like a bit different. Like 4 kilogram batch, like plus the liquid, so that 35% liquid. So you're looking at like maybe like 40, 45. And if the one portion is like maybe like 120, 130 grams. Okay, so that's how you make shoyu ramen noodles from scratch. Okay. So that was a noodle part, and next we actually have like one of the instructors for school. It's gonna show us. It's gonna actually teach us like shoyu ramen like in more depth, and like it's gonna talk about like some technical parts of it, and then it's gonna show us the few examples of shoyu ramen dishes. Okay, let me introduce like Mr. Takeuchi. You can call him Thomas. He's from Vancouver, BC, Canada, and like so he's basically like a native speaker English, and he's being like he has like background like experience like in Japanese cuisine, and then he's been with us like for several years, like as an instructor. So like he's got a lot of knowledge and like a lot of experiences of ramen and Japanese cuisine. So I'd like to have him like to teach us short ramen today. Okay, I'll pass it to him.
Thank you, Akira. Once again, my name is Thomas. I'm one of the instructors at the Yamato Ramen School. And today I'll be talking about shoyu ramen, so soy sauce ramen. And before talking about the ramen, I want to talk about the soy sauce itself. First of all, soy sauce is made of soybean, wheat, salt, water, and koji mold. And this is a key to soy sauce because this is the fermentation starter. By mixing all of these together, the koji will start the fermentation and you'll end up with the soy sauce. Okay, so that's how soy sauce is made. And next I want to talk about the types of soy sauce. And the first type is the regular soy sauce. Okay? This is the most common type of soy sauce in Japan, and it is made of 50% soybean and 50% wheat. And this is the most common type of soy sauce. And the next one is light soy sauce. And the light soy sauce is also soy 50 and wheat 50, but it has extra 10% salt. So it's a little bit saltier and it's less fermentation. So which gives a lighter taste, lighter color in the soy sauce. And the next one, white soy sauce. And this is mainly made with wheat. And this has very little color and it has a very mild taste as well. Next, re-fermented soy sauce. This one's a little bit unique because this is a soy sauce that's made with soy sauce. So what this means is that regular soy sauce is made with soybean, wheat, salt, and water in Kojic mold, but the salt and water part becomes soy sauce. So it's pretty much making soy sauce with soy sauce, which gives a really dense flavor, soy sauce flavor. So next one is Tamari Soy Sauce. This one is made with less wheat or no wheat. So this can be gluten-free as well. And because it has a high percentage of soybean, it's really dark in color, and also it has a strong soy sauce flavor as well. And this order is from darker to lighter. So when the soy sauce is darker, it usually has a stronger soy sauce flavor and usually more flavorful as well. And lighter in color, it's usually milder in taste, and it might be easier to consume it as well. So when you're choosing your soy sauce for your ramen, you can decide by how strong you want the soy sauce flavor to be. So if you want to bring out the soy sauce flavor, just go for the darker color soy sauce. And if you don't want to overwhelm the ramen with the soy sauce taste, just go for the lighter color soy sauce. Okay, so now that types of soy sauce is explained, I want to talk about the types of shoyu ramen, so soy sauce ramen. So there's all sorts of shoyu ramen, but you can break it up into two groups. One is regional, and the second one is type of stock. So regional soy sauce ramen is, for example, Tokyo ramen, Kitakata ramen, Asahikawa ramen. And they're usually adjusted to the regional preference of the taste. And also they often use local ingredients to make the ramen. And the second group is type of stock. Some examples are tori shoyu ramen. Tori means chicken, so it's chicken shoyu ramen. Second one, tonkotsu shoyu ramen, which is pork. And tonkotsu shoyu ramen is usually the stock is emulsified and creamy. And the next one is gyokai shoyu ramen, which means seafood shoyu ramen. And this is the difference is the type of stock. Okay, so here are some of the types of shoyu ramen. And next, I want to talk about the elements of shoyu ramen. So the first one is the stock. And stock for shoyu ramen, they're usually clear or cloudy, so slightly emulsified chicken stock, or clear or cloudy pork stock, or the third one, seafood stock. Or it can be a mixture of these stock. And sometimes at a ramen shop, they call their ramen stock double soup, which means it's a mixture of two different types of stock. So mixture of pork and seafood double soup, it means that it's mixed two different types of stock. And next, flavoring sauce. In Japanese, we call it motodare. So this flavoring sauce is what makes up that soy sauce flavor in the soy sauce ramen. So the flavoring sauce is soy sauce base, motodare. And a motodare is not just soy sauce, there's all sorts of ingredients. For example, soy sauce, meating, sake, and some dried ingredients like kelp and sardines for the umami. And for the flavored oil, they often use pork fat or chicken oil. It can be anything. And they're often flavored with garlic, leek, and also etc. And for the noodles, they often use thin noodles, which is wavy or straight, and that's often paired up with the shoyu ramen. And for the toppings, some of the common toppings for shoyu ramen is chashu, sliced up leek, green onion, mitsuba leaf, spinach, soft-boiled eggs, bean sprouts, fish cake. Okay, so this is just some examples for the common shoyu ramen. Okay, so next I want to talk about our method of ramen making. So like I said, in a motodare, there's all sorts of ingredients in this motodare. I'll say at least 10 different ingredients in this motodare. But our method of making this motodare is by separating each ingredient, preparing them separately. So for example, this soy sauce is prepared with scallops. So it has some scallop umami in this soy sauce. And next one, this one is flavored with shiitake mushrooms. And this is salt-based motodare, which is flavored with kelp. So it's got some kelp umami in it. And this is salt-based motodare with sardines. And this is heated mirin, which is a sweet rice sake. And this is white miso motodare. And this is red miso motodare. Okay? So think of these as parts of a motodare. And what the students that comes to our ramen school do is they'll blend these parts together into their own preference. And while they're blending it, they measure how much they put in. So once it's completed into their own preference, they have their own recipe, their own blend. So we don't just teach our students like one type of recipe. We allow the students to make their own taste and make it into original taste. Okay. And same goes with the flavored oil as well. This is leek oil, garlic oil, and this is chicken oil, and chili oil, and this is a black garlic oil. So this is often top for like a tonkotsu ramen. Okay, so same goes for flavored oil. The students will blend the flavored oil together into their own blend. Okay, so that's one unique method of our ramen making. And the benefit of this is that you can make it up into your own original taste. And also, you don't just learn one type of ramen. You get to learn how to blend the ingredients together, how to combine them, so you'll be able to make all sorts of ramen. Okay? So if you're interested to learn our method, please consider a ramen school. Or for people that can't come to our school, we also sell these textbooks. Okay? So these will cover how to make the stock, motodare, and flavored oil. And please, if you're interested, please contact us through our website. And yeah, it comes in 2 sets: basic edition, basics, and the methods. So yeah, if you're interested. Okay, now that that's explained, I want to get into the actual cooking part. I'm going to make tori shoyu ramen today. So chicken shoyu ramen, and also because it's summer, it's really hot in Japan, we're gonna make cold shoyu ramen as well. Okay. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we're gonna heat up the stock first. This is chicken and fish stock. So I'm gonna heat it up. And So in the bowl, I'm going to put 1 scoop of this pre-blended shoyu motodare. It's 1 scoop. And also this chicken base flavored oil. 1 scoop of this as well. And today we're going to use this straight thin noodles for this shoyu ramen. I'm gonna cook these for 50 seconds. So make sure to put the noodles in a rapidly boiling water and mix for the first 5 or 10 seconds. And for the toppings, we have thinly sliced leek, radish sprouts, soft-boiled egg with marinated in soy sauce, menma, and sous vide chicken chashu. And I have lime in between to kind of define the look of this chashu. Now that the stock is ready, I'm going to pour 1 scoop of this chicken and fish stock. And the noodles are ready as well. I'm going to strain out this boiling water completely. And I'm going to put this in the soup. And I'm going to line up the noodles. Okay. So now that the noodles are lined up, it allows us the customer to eat the noodles easier. Okay. So now chashu first. I'm gonna top the toppings. I'm gonna put the chashu in the middle. And soft-boiled egg on the side. Menma on the side as well. And thinly sliced leek in the back. It's gonna give some height to the ramen. And lastly, I'm gonna top it with some radish sprouts for the green. Just gonna wipe the side. So this is how to prepare your chicken shoyu ramen. Okay, so next I'm going to make cold shoyu ramen. So for the cold shoyu ramen, I'm going to use this wavy thin noodles. And when you're cooking your noodles for a cold dish, make sure to cook it maybe 1.5 or 2 times longer than a regular boiling time. Because when the noodles are chilled, the starch is going to harden. So we have to overcook the noodles. Just so I'm going to cook these for 1.5 minutes. And let's prepare the soup. So I'm going to use the same flavoring sauce. And for the flavored oil, make sure to use vegetable oil, because if you use animal fat, it's gonna solidify when it's cold. So make sure to use vegetable-based oil. And this is flavored with scallop, mackerel, and some garlic as well. And I'm gonna pour in this fish stock, cold fish stock. Pour 1 scoop of this. The noodles are ready, almost ready. So once the noodles are boiled, I'm going to wash and chill the noodles. Okay. So once it's boiled, into the strainer. And I'm going to wash and remove the starch around the noodles. And remove this water, throw away the water, change the water, and wash again. Okay. So now that the starch is removed, the noodles are nice and silky, and it's cold as well. Okay. Now I want to remove all this water. This water is going to dilute the soup, so remove the water completely. Okay. So now, put the noodles into the soup. And for the toppings, we got some mixed vegetable, some boiled prawns, soft-boiled eggs, and some baby corn, okra, and lastly, I'm going to top it with some lemon slice. And on the side, I'm going to put a cut tomato. Okay. So this is how to prepare your cold shoyu ramen. And this cold shoyu ramen is perfect for summer. Okay, so we have some questions. The first question is, how can I make homemade kansui? So I'm not quite sure how to make a homemade kansui. Because I can't find it in my country, if you can find potassium carbonate and sodium carbonate, if you mix those two, you can make kansui. And the balance is 60% potassium carbonate and 40% sodium carbonate. Okay. Or if you can find a Japanese ingredient supplier in your country, you can contact them for the kansui. They may have them, so that might be the first thing you should do. Okay. So the next question, the waste came out from the wavy noodle was a little bit too much. The reason why there was too much because first of all, when you're making your noodles, your first cut and your last cut will be a waste because it will be a little bit too short. And because we made two different types of noodles, we had a little bit more waste than usual. So if you're making, you don't really change up the cut in the middle. So you're probably going to go with the same cut all the way to the end. So you'll probably end up with a less waste. Okay. And the third question, where can I buy the books? If you contact us through our website using the contact form, that'll be the way to buy the book, textbook. Okay. And okay, the fourth question is fish stock for the summer ramen. Yes, it was a fish stock because I purposely chose fish stock because if you use animal stock for cold ramen, sometimes it kind of like thickens when you cool it down. So it's not really it doesn't go well with cold ramen. So you want to keep it light. So I purposely chose fish stock for that chilled cold shoyu ramen. Oh, what is the kansui relation for the Hakata noodles? This is the same as well. Is it about the sodium carbonate and the potassium carbonate? I believe so. So yeah, so the balance will be 60% potassium carbonate and 40% sodium carbonate, and you put 1% against to the amount of flour. So if you have a kilo of flour, you put in 10 grams of kansui.